A very good evening to you and thank you for watching NTV on the Spot. My name is Ben Mwine. If you know your constitution at all, you'll know that Article 28 and 3 talks about the presumption of innocence until proven guilty or until someone pleads guilty. Also, in the Constitution, in Article 26 and 3, we talk about the right to bail, or for a person to be able to get bail from the court if they are suspected of a criminal offense. This has become a point of contention and discussion and debate, especially because the President of the Republic of Uganda, President Museveni, is not happy with the current regime as it is and wants suspects to be held for at least 180 days without bail. Something that is causing quite a lot of commotion within the legal and justice circles and has become a huge point of debate. On the Spot tonight, we talk about this and its implications coming up in just a moment. My guest tonight is someone who is very well qualified to give his insights on this discussion. As a lawyer, as a legislator, he is currently MP for Busiro East, but also chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee in the Uganda Parliament. Welcome and thank you to Honorable Medard Segona for allowing us to put you on the spot. Good evening to you.
Thank you and good evening to you, Ben, and to our viewers out there. Well, thank you for all you're doing. I guess you're contributing to the country and its development through whatever you're doing out there. In your intro, I felt inflated when you said, I know something.
We hope you do.
About the law, and your presumption is irrebuttable.
Let's start from there, because the majority of our viewers, Honorable Segona, might not be very familiar not only with the law, but with the Constitution itself, on which we hinge our discussion tonight. So if you don't mind educating us a little bit about these two particular articles, 26, 28, and how they refer to, one, the presumption of innocence, two, the right to bail, and then we can talk a little bit about why the president seems to have a big bone of contention to pick with the system as it is right now, and your thoughts on that, of course, too, later on.
Well, I think, first of all, yes, it's our duty to inform Ugandans about what the Constitution provides, because that one in itself is a constitutional requirement for the government to translate the Constitution into all the local languages for people to be able to understand. And it's only then that you can accuse them of remaining consistently, persistently, and intentionally ignorant of the law. Remember, under the Penal Code, it said that ignorance of the law affords no excuse. That's number one. Number two, you also mentioned that the president himself is not happy with the Constitution. I don't think he's not happy with the Constitution. He must be happy, unless he's a chameleon, because it is he who signed the Constitution in October 1995. You and I were in Senior 5 when he was signing the Constitution, so he should be the happiest man. And at that time, he expressed dismay with only two clauses. One is 237, relating to land, and the other one is about UPDF. The others, he had no problem. Incidentally, on the one of the UPDF, he has never moved a single amendment, even when he said he was not happy. On land, he has been attempting and continues to make attempts. And we think that his attempts are selfish and they're not in national interest. With respect to bail, I think the background from which you will understand this is looking at the two models, the Anglophone and the Francophone. In the Francophone model is to the effect that a person is guilty until proven innocent. Those are the French territories. They look at you, you're a criminal on the face of it.
Right.
Until they open what we call lifting the veil or the curtain and say, oh, the man we thought was guilty is actually innocent. On any occasion when they allege that you are suspected to have stolen somebody's chicken, you're guilty.
The burden of proof is now on you.
The burden of proof, therefore, lies on you.
Right.
To convince the court and the world that you're not guilty.
Right.
The Anglophone model is that you're innocent until proven guilty, or until you plead guilty. Now, that one moved from being a theory to a constitutional provision under Article 28. Actually, there has been an argument whether bail is a right or it is actually the right to apply for bail.
Right.
Either way you look at it, there is a right, or there are two rights. I think the person who especially came up with the argument that bail is a right was the Honorable Retired Justice Edmund Sempalugaizi. And I seem to agree with him, because his argument is, you will think bail is not a right if only you read Article 23 alone.
Right.
But if you read Article 23 with Article 28, then bail is a right. Why? Because for every innocent person, and virtually that is everybody who has not been convicted, there is the freedom of movement.
Right.
Because remember that detention curtails your right to movement. So for you to deprive me of the right to move, first it is you to justify that action. It is not me to justify my right of movement and freedom.
Right.
For example, if you're driving around, I am free to drive 24/7 anywhere on the streets or walk anywhere in Uganda. But when a policeman stops me, or woman stops me on the road, it is him to tell me, this is curfew time. Therefore, the justification for curtailing your freedom to move is curfew, and the laws that put in place that thing called curfew time. So the point we're making here in saying that bail is a right is because I'm entitled to move. So you tell me why I should not move.
Right.
I am innocent. Every innocent citizen ordinarily is not supposed to be in prison. But where there is a suspicion, the law allows it. And this freedom, by the way, of freedom to move, the liberty, is curtailed again in the Constitution under circumstances provided for in the Constitution. Right. Article 23 and Article 43. There is a limitation placed onto this right. But the limitation, again, also has a limitation only to the extent that the restriction or the limitation is demonstrably justifiable in a free and democratic society. If the restriction you're putting onto somebody is not demonstrably justifiable in a free and democratic society, then you're not allowed by law to put a restriction on that person.
Because one of the things that the president actually has raised as a problem for him is the issue of whether bail is a right, because he says, look, actually bail is not a right because the Constitution does say that you can apply for bail and the court will decide, right? The justice will make a decision based on circumstances whether you deserve to be given bail or not.
Even if you to take that route, still his arguments are mischievous. Why? Because he's even trying to remove that right to apply for bail. Because the argument, the second school of thought, is that your right is limited to applying for bail. Then the magistrate or judge, the judicial officer, will consider whether or not you should get a bail.
Right.
Now, if I can as well take him on along that line. What the proposals that is trying to come up with are to the effect that even that right to apply for bail is being taken away by saying, let's put it in the Constitution, that for the following offenses, the judge shall not have the power to grant you bail. And he mentions, among others, murder, terrorism, I think corruption-related offenses, what else? A number of offenses, basically grave offenses in that generic string, treason, etc. But one, remember that a treason suspect is as innocent as a suspect for theft of chicken.
Right. Isn't that where the problem, though, is?
There is no problem, because it is a standard thing. If you remember the scenario where Professor Chidu Makubuya wrote an opinion saying Dr. Besigye could not be qualified to stand because the DPP had evidence against him, and therefore he was not as innocent as the rest of us. His deputy wrote a contrary opinion. That is the only word of Besigye, currently my clerk to Parliament. Now, indeed, even the court said something to the contrary. Subsequently, remember that there were some two busybodies that went to the Constitutional Court and wanted to prevent Dr. Besigye from standing or challenged his nomination as a presidential candidate. Now, I mean, the courts have come out to pronounce themselves on this, that no, everybody is presumed innocent,
right,
until proven or until he pleads guilty. So, there are no different standards. There has been an argument, you know, in Rwanda, it is very difficult to get bail. First, yes, because Rwanda adopted the Francophone model. Two, in Rwanda, if you are to talk about applying the same standards, on average, how long does it take you to dispose of a case? In particular, let's concern ourselves with a criminal case. First, within 1 month, I think in the 9th Parliament, we benchmarked in Rwanda, in Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee under the Honorable Stephen Tashovia. One of the findings we made is that in Rwanda, a case is decided within 1 month.
Right.
From the date you're presented to court, within 1 month, your case is decided. And what happens in Uganda? I am a living example. On 18th July 2008, I was kidnapped by those same thugs. Myself, which were Peter Maiga, Honorable Betty Namboze, were moved and in and around the western part of this country. At some point, we would be detained in the bush. Today, you are in some store. So many stories. There are horror-some stories I don't want to even talk about. After 8 days, we were presented in court. The two of us were presented, arraigned in Nakawa. To date, I am on bail for the last 13 years. Honorable Betty Namboze is on bail for the last 13 years. HT Charles Peter Maiga is on police bond for the last 13 years. Investigations have never been concluded. Whenever we've been going to court, they tell us the file is missing. It's not there. My daughter, who I was expecting, was in the mother's womb at that time, is 13 years in primary 7. Now you can understand the essence of bail. Is it my case? Is it my offense that the police has never concluded investigations in respect to a charge of sedition over things I'm alleged to have uttered on a public radio station?
Right.
No.
Doesn't that, in a way, Honorable Segona, vindicate the president's intention? Because, I mean, what you're saying, 13 years it has been and your case hasn't been decided. Imagine if that's the same for a person who is suspected of some really atrocious crimes, or murder.
In fact, it indicts the president. That such a thing can happen is an indictment to the president. And the arguments, the fallacious arguments that he's putting across are self-indicting, first and foremost, and are a vote of no confidence in himself. for the following reasons. What reasons do the police advance for not concluding cases in time? That they do not have money. The president is the minister of finance, constitutionally. He's the one who does not give them money. He presents the budget every year. He does not give the police enough money to conclude investigations. 2, backlog in courts. Who is responsible for the backlog in courts? The president. He has refused to fill the vacancies in the judiciary. You find a chief magistrate supervising 2-3 districts, and that chief magistrate will be in a particular station, but then there are 2 days, another 2 days he or she is supervising another district or jurisdiction, etc. Who is responsible for that? Me, as a private citizen? The reverse now would be that because the president is unable to provide money to the police to conclude investigations, to appoint judges and other judicial officers to conclude cases in time, I should be in prison for 13 years. That daughter of mine would not be going to school because the father is suspected to have uttered seditious words. That's point number 1. Yeah. The president is the chief prosecutor because he appoints the director of public prosecutions. And the director of public prosecutions is an integral part of the executive arm of government. The president is the chief investigator. He supervises and superintends over the police. If the police are incompetent, if the police are to blame, like he called them Kaukumi, then it is his trouble. Right. When you tell me this institution is Kaukumi, infiltrated, I first look at you because you're the face of that monster called the police, as the president, because you're the commander-in-chief. When you see a policeman who is investigating, a policeman who is arresting, it is the president who is arresting you. That's why an accused person is Medad Lubega Segona against Uganda, or Uganda against that particular person. I think we must, the president must exfoliate himself out of that thinking. And, be presidential, be national. Once you are emotionally charged, okay, you don't have a right to speak. You have a duty to keep quiet.
Because he has been very vocal about this for quite a while.
But does he even mean it?
Anger.
Does he even mean it? For example, which offenses are we talking about? Murder? Who murdered Yasin Kauma in Arua, Bobi Wine's driver? Was it not his SFC? Have you seen anyone arraigned in court? That's number 1. Who murdered Zebra Senyange? The president came out on TV. You guys showed him. He was saying, well, they thought I knew about it, so they told me, and that this one is finished. Meaning, the people who killed Zebra Senyange are known to the president. That is, they are known to the chief policeman of the country, called the president. Right. They are known to the chief soldier of the country, called Yoweri Museveni. They are known to the chief prosecutor of the country, called Yoweri Museveni. Has he arraigned anyone before courts of law? So, murder is criminal only when the president chooses. Let's go to the second offense, treason. Why? It is protecting him against removal or against what he did to others. Let's go to the third one, corruption. Do you want to convince yourself that he believes in it? How? He himself charged the Honorable Captain Mike Mukula. He was convicted. Okay? He's the one who, when he met the TESO people who were demanding for Mukula's release, the one who said, no, don't worry, the appeal will be sorted, will also meet his legal bills. You prosecute a man, then you meet his legal bills. Let's go to the latest.
Was the appeal not successful?
It was.
Right.
And I don't want to say that my honorable colleague is a convict, but right. I'm saying the president who was prosecuting him was convinced that the man committed the offense. But he's the one who was saying, we shall work to get him out. But let's go to the latest example. What happens to the Honorable Kaboyo? Alice? Yes. Is she not a convict of corruption? And I'm now asking you, is she not a convict?
I'm not the judge. So
no. The judge pronounced himself and the judgment is public.
Right.
She's a convict.
Right.
Is she not a minister? Who appointed her? I want to differ, to move away from those who cite examples of the Honorable Sam Kutesa, I think the Honorable Jim Owezi, etc., because those ones are not convicts.
Right.
If anything, they won their cases. So do you want to tell me that the same president did not or does not want Kaboyo to get bail?
What does the law say about a convicted person being appointed to public office?
Well, first of all, if you've been convicted of an offense involving moral turpitude. But before you even go to that, whether the offense involves moral turpitude, etc., the fact that you can appoint a convict for corruption, even if it is, because the public, they say 7 years, within 7 years. But you know, even if it is 20 years, if you are not embarrassed to be seen with that one in your cabinet, then you believe that corruption is an offense. Corruption will only be an offense when the president chooses that it's an offense. So he does not believe in it, but he's just clothing up the offenses that he's looking at, mainly political offenses. Those are the ones that he does not want people to get bail over. And let me tell you, this is a 2026 project. Well, it's gonna annoy me.
Right.
I'll lock him up. If this law had been amended before, okay, Kyagulanyi would not have been a presidential candidate.
Isn't that a bit presumptuous? I mean,
no.
Again, so let's go back a little bit to where the president is coming from.
Kyagulanyi is charged with what in Gulu? Treason.
Right.
It's one of the offenses over which the president does not want people to be granted bail. Okay? Kyagulanyi was charged in that court. How many months to nomination? Was this not the same thing done to Dr. Besigye? And you still think it is presumptuous? No. There is no presumption in it. These are realities. We know them.
From your perspective?
I mean, I don't know. There is a section of people I represent in this.
Right.
And if you want, ask around. Especially ask those that are in the know. You see, I have insisted saying, maybe it was a mistake in the Constitution, but it is the Constitution. Ordinarily, the right to speak is limited to knowledge. You should not speak when you do not know, ordinarily.
Right.
But because the Constitution allows you even to express ignorance, you can proceed and express ignorance. And I'll defend to death your right to express ignorance. But I'm saying, ask those that know some basics. And you know, some people think this should be handled or looked at politically. That's wrong. I can tell you, I can list more than 10 people that have benefited, that are NRM or part of the establishment and have benefited from bail. Maybe the only people that have not benefited from bail are President Museveni, his wife, his children, and his brothers. Quite a number of the rest have benefited from bail. The Honorable Mwesigwa Rukutana, the Honorable John Nasasira, the Honorable Professor Gilbert Bukenya, the Honorable Sam Kahamba Kutesa, the Honorable Tumukunde, Dr. Besigye, okay, the late James Kazini. You can name hundreds of people.
Right.
And they never knew at any one time that while Museveni reigns, they will go to prison. But they went there. They went there, but because there was bail. General Kale Kaihura, let me give you an example of General Kale Kaihura. When we were attending mass for the late Joan Kagezi in Tinda, in his speech, General Kaihura as IGP, first of all, was stampeded by the criminal acts of the bandits that killed Joan. May her soul rest in peace. And he said, Parliament, you need to hurry up in amending the Constitution to allow us detain such people for 90 days before we present them in court. First, of course, the Honorable Chief Justice Bart Katurebe was present and was the last person to speak and said, please, I think it was Chinua Achebe who said, don't destroy that forest, don't cut down that forest, because you will need it when they chase you. I think barely 2 years, General Kale Kaihura was incarcerated for 72 days. On the 72nd day, while applying for bail in the military court, the military establishment or military thing called the General Court Martial. You remember the remarks by his lawyer, the Honorable Erika Ruhanga, said, this man, for the last 72 days, has not, he used the word touched, I would say, I will use seen his wife. Even the 90 days he had proposed had not elapsed. So, you know, when you're doing these things, do not be emotional. I am always agitated, I'm always offended, I always bleed when I see people killing others. I bleed. My heart bleeds. Why? Why would you kill another person? But sometimes those people have not killed. The other time I saw my land friend, the Attorney General, Honorable Chiriwa Chiwanuka, giving us the statistics of people that have absconded. First of all, there is a remedy for those or against those who abscond, do not honor their bail terms. The same court which granted them bail has the power to call them back and cancel their bail.
Right.
But you may say that some have actually disappeared. Yes. We have seen the police, a number of people in police uniform killing. Have we abolished the police? We have a checkered history in our military. Have we abolished the military? We all sinned. And we fell short of God's glory. My misconduct must not be reason for judging you the same way. Every person must be judged on his own. Incidentally, the Attorney General did not give us the statistics of those that have religiously honored their bail conditions.
Right.
They are quite a number. Two, and with the remedies, we have given the power to the court to make an honest professional assessment of who deserves and therefore will be granted bail.
Something that the president seems to have a very big problem with.
Now that's the trouble. He wants to be everything. The man is overrunning parliament, he is stampeding and trying to overrun courts of law. I mean, which institution are we going to be left with? If you have a problem, you put up with your problem. Why? Because the problem is the law, the problem is the Constitution. Right. The moment you overrun the Constitution, you have no reason to lock up anyone. You lose the mandate because you derive that mandate from the Constitution. I think it's different having a Constitution and constitutionalism. And the president needs to be given a lecture on this. I hope it's not too late. Because he told us that at some point he attempted to study law. And he was there for 1 or 2 days until then they decided the case.
Well, speaking of the Constitution, Honorable Sagona, let's take a very quick break. When we come back, the president has said that this provision of the law for bail seems to be a confusion in the law, because he says it's something that was done against the will of the Ugandan people. Let's take a very quick break. We'll pick this up with Honorable Medad Segona in just a little bit as we put him on the spot. Welcome back on the spot here on NTV. My name is Ben Wynne. I'm joined this evening by the Honorable Medad Segona, MP for Busiro East, also chairperson of the Parliamentary Accounts Committee in the Parliament. We're talking about what are now proposed amendments by the President, because he's been spearheading this drive to amend our law so that we don't have bail being granted to certain suspects for certain criminal acts. And one of the things that he says is that the law as it was put in the Constitution in Article 26 and Article 28 was a mistake in itself, in a way, because it went against the wishes of the people. Honorable Sagona, President Museveni said that he had a bone to pick with the Odoki-led commission, the Constitution Review Commission, which brought the 95 Constitution into play. And he says that according to what he's been able to find out, from what he's been able to gather, the majority of the Ugandan people had a problem with bail being granted to certain offenders, certain offenses. And so in a way he's saying that already that's a problem that should be corrected.
First of all, I think, one, he has not provided us with the statistics. I have read the Odoki report, Odoki Commission report myself. I have also read the Sempebwa Commission report. What he's saying is not factual. It's not based on facts. It's based on imagination. He's imagining that what he thinks is the thought of the people of Uganda, and that's not the correct position of the facts as we have them. Secondly, even if that were the case, first of all, he had the power to stop it at that time. You know, even during the most difficult days of Idi Amin and Obote, as we read about them, including in his books, there was bail. Of course, they have always told us that President Museveni is better than Idi Amin and Obote. I'm still doing my research to see if he's better than them. But even when you're compared with the bad, that means you're bad, because those are your generic, that's your generic string. Those are your generic comrades. That's where you belong. Why is he not being compared with Nelson Mandela, for example? It is wrong. First of all, even if Ugandans thought that, right, like the president thinks,
if he's able to prove to you
yes,
that
yes,
the majority of Ugandans actually were in support of this,
even then, that must have been a thought in ignorance of the law.
How so?
Because the law is not designed that way. The law is designed along lines of fairness.
Right.
That's number one. He seems to be expressing the lack of confidence in the judiciary. Ordinarily, we think that the judiciary is equipped enough to decide when and whether to grant or deny bail, and on what terms. Let me give you an example. His Majesty the Omsinga of Renzururu was granted bail in Jinja High Court, and the instruction was that he should not go beyond Kampala, capital city, towards Kasese. He could go beyond Kampala on his way to Jinja to answer his bail terms or report to the High Court, and that is enforced. I am aware of a number of cases where people have been granted bail, and they tell you, don't go beyond 3 districts. If you're staying in Kampala or Wakiso, they tell you don't go beyond Kampala, Mukono, Wakiso, especially in those high-profile cases. If you're talking about the grave offenses like treason, etc. But you cannot pronounce there should be no bail. First of all, the courts must also be very careful and conscious. One, because this is about their survival. Their survival is doing their job. Now, do not imagine that President Museveni is a novice in what he's doing. He's been at this game. He even knows that even if I am not going to present this, or I'm not going to succeed in having it sail through, the moment I roar, the judges will fear to grant bail to those I consider my arch enemies. You get the point? When he roared, you had the difficulty with which the Sejirinyas and Sewanyanas have had to wait in Chigo, because the president is a feared person. Let me tell Ugandans, if you do not restrain Museveni, we all doomed. Nobody is safe. But you know, you're amending the constitution because Yoweri Museveni has said so. Supposing you have made at Lubega tomorrow, are you going to amend it again and reinstate bail? You know, you make a mistake, and it's a mistake for life.
Well, the argument here, Honorable Sagona, is, and one of the things that has come out as an argument, is that the way that law is set up in some of these cases, again, we must emphasize that it's supposed to be for particular offenses. And I think, to quote the president's words, he says it's a provocation to the offended. And he said that it's very annoying for people who are victims to see a Sogona walking on the street when they know that he killed a family member. And he says that that's a provocation.
Is this coming from the person who, one, released Rwakasisi and appointed him a presidential advisor? Was he charged with chicken theft? Or he thinks that the victims of the Rwakasisi case have all died? Is he the same person who is protecting the SFCs that killed Chagulanyi's driver? Or he thinks that Yasin Kauma had no relatives that are grieving? That Zebra Senyange has no relatives that are grieving? You see, you must not apply double standards. It's a question of standards. And it's not a question of something that makes you happy. If you want to be happy, just go to Makerere and enjoy MDD. There are people who will entertain you. Open the theaters. They are there. The law is not intended to please the president. The law is not even intended to please me, the victim of crime. Okay? It is supposed to be balanced. Supposing the alleged victims of crime are shedding crocodile tears, as in many cases it has happened. We have seen a number of cases where, as a result of land wrangles, women, especially, perhaps men too, people concoct stories against others. I handled the case of these young men of Bugerere, the so-called Bugerere suspects. After 3.5 years in jail, getting bail, it is frustrated by the state today, frustrated by the state the other day. Just like you see the thugs frustrating Sejirinya and Sawanyana's bail today. And I'm calling them thugs consciously and cautiously because I know the law. And after those 3.5 years, these young men come for their trial. A gentleman called Jessero Livingstone comes, and the witness, the key witness against him, actually had an affair with his wife. And this is on public record. When we bring this out through cross-examination, and the matter is adjourned to the same afternoon, the gentleman did not come back. The next day, the DPP withdraws. Look at those victims of persecution. In the same case, people charged with terrorism. The witness comes and says, that one, the evidence against him is, I saw him carrying a fridge. Where did he get it from? I don't know. A fridge. And stealing a fridge, assuming he stole it, is an ingredient of terrorism. And don't forget that terrorism is a political offense. And never mind whether it could have been his fridge and he was fleeing with the most expensive item from his room because there was chaos. Another one was alleged to have stolen a mattress. Whose mattress, we don't know. And I'm talking about a real live example, live case in court. I was not told, I was there. Somebody said, how do you arrive at the conclusion that this man committed treason, terrorism? He was carrying a mattress. Tell me, Ben, there is chaos, there are stones flying around, there are bullets flying around. You reach a conclusion and say, man, I cannot handle this. What do? if you're running away and you're able to walk away with your mattress? Because nobody ever raised an alarm saying somebody has stolen my mattress. Even after those 3.5 years, nobody came up to own the mattress that the man is alleged to have been carrying. So the point is this: we have an imperfect system based on suspicions, sometimes concoctions, where prosecution is turned into persecution, where police investigations are not perfect or watertight or airtight. Okay, with all those ones, an imperfect system of criminal justice, where somebody is likely to delay in prison. There are people who have been in prison for 5 years, 7 years, who have not been tried, whose cases have not been concluded. In Uganda, we had a case, and I think when we were dealing with the death penalty in Parliament, I tried to bring an amendment on against the death penalty, or even streamlining the penal law in Uganda. We received testimonies of people who were convicted, charged with murder, convicted of the same, and then after some years, the man is convicted. He appeals to Court of Appeal. The conviction is upheld. Okay? It goes to Supreme Court. The conviction is upheld. The case is watertight, therefore. Then all of a sudden, you see the alleged deceased walking on the streets. You ask him, man, where have you been? I was fishing in Jinja. I mean, those should be pointers that should awaken us to say, oh, I think we need to rethink.
Right. So
even the victims, by the way, because you see, if you are the victim of crime, you are not supposed to be put in a place where you judge. That would be mob justice.
Yeah, and I wanted to pick up on that because that's one of the things that has become a problem. We know that mob justice has become commonplace in Uganda, and that seems to suggest that, and again, the president does allude to this, that people are not very happy with the system the way it is at the moment, and this is supposed to help. The Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Olanya, Honorable Olanya, actually had something to say about this, about why he thinks these amendments are coming in place, and let's take a very quick look at what he had to say.
We have to deal with the concerns of the public. The biggest thing that they are faced with is that each time somebody is brought into the criminal justice system, that person is rejected immediately back into the community, and there are challenges. The victims don't feel good, and they shout and they cry and they talk to politicians and they talk to leaders, and most times they resort to what you call mob justice. We have to deal with the concerns of the public. The biggest thing that they are faced with is that each time somebody is brought into the criminal justice system, that person is rejected immediately back into the community, and there are challenges. The victims don't feel good, and they shout and they cry and they talk to politicians and they talk to leaders, and most times they resort to what you call mob justice.
So,
yes, I think, first of all, with immense respect to the Speaker, to my brother Jacob, loss of confidence, are you going to establish a parallel system? That is the judiciary we have. There are people who are not satisfied with our service as Parliament, but we are the Parliament they have. There are people who are not satisfied with the way he runs Parliament, but he's the Speaker, he's my Speaker. And whenever I think he has made a mistake, I call him. Good thing he picks his calls, and he even returns calls. Tell him, I think this one is wrong. We urge over it. Let's continue improving the judiciary without killing it. Killing it how? Removing its powers. If people are angry, they should not even direct their anger at the suspects. They should direct their anger at the state. First, you are the state. Why do you hurry to arrest before investigation? Somebody's in court after 3 years, and you come back and shamelessly tell court, We are still investigating. The Bugere case I am telling you about, after 36 months, those 3 years.
3 years.
Plus 6 months, those are 42 months. Okay? The OCCID, who was investigating the case, gets to court and he recorded his statement just the previous day. 4 years, you are still investigating a case. Whose fault is that? The suspect's fault? They should actually direct their anger at government. I have told you, whenever the president has wanted something done by the police, they've done it, including doing it the wrong way. Let him direct that I want investigations. Okay, he can classify offenses since he loves classifying offenses. In this one, we can allow him to apply different standards. If the offense is so grave and complicated, he can say within 3 months, you must have concluded investigations. But when you say that, first of all, give them the training. 2, give them the money to do that.
Right.
Give the judiciary the money to run criminal sessions and conclude cases in time. We are not going to concede to locking up people's children. You know, by doing this, and this is what cripples development in these countries, you lock up somebody's father, and that's a girl of 14 years. For 5 years, his case is not heard. By the time the man comes out of prison, his daughter has dropped out of school, he's pregnant, or with a bouncing baby. That girl's life is shattered. And the man is released the following day. The government did not have enough evidence. I mean, you just apply some level of logic, and let's keep some standards. You do not fail to do your work, then victimize the citizens. And
Right.
that's my emphasis to the president. Do not do your work incompetently and then victimize citizens. The citizens give you their money to do thorough and speedy investigations. If you fail in your work, tell them you have failed. Hand over to another person.
So we have a bit of a situation because you just said you will not concede, right? The highest levels of the judiciary have come out to also voice their concerns about the proposed amendments. They don't seem to be very happy about them.
True.
The president, on the other hand, has come out and said, and I quote him verbatim, he says, nobody will stop us. And based on precedent, something that you'll be familiar with in the law, when the president says nobody will stop us, usually it tends to be difficult indeed to stop him. So let's take a very quick break. Let's stop here for a moment. And when we come back, Honorable Sogona gives us some insight into what the implication of this is. You've got the president saying nobody will stop him from getting what he wants in regard to this bail issue. Honorable Sogona and many of the judiciary are saying they have problems with it. Where does that leave us? We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. On the spot, Honorable Medad Segona today. My name is Ben Mwine. Thanks a lot for being with us on this wonderful Thursday evening. We're talking about the issue of bail and the president's wish or desire to have certain criminal offenses not grant bail to suspects for at least 180 days. He's used words like nonsense, and he's been very vocal about his desire for a very long time, dating back to as far back as 2011. He's also said that nobody will stop him and stop us from being able to make this happen, because he says that when this was put in the constitution back in '95, the Adoki Commission went against the wishes of the Ugandan people. Honorable Segona and many others seem to disagree with that. However, that sets us on a collision course where the NUP, for example, at the moment only has 10% of the parliament. The NRM has more than 63%. If you add the independents, well, over 2/3. Those that might be leaning towards their thoughts. Precedent again has shown that usually when the president wants something to be done or desires for something to be done, the resistance doesn't seem to be that strong. So in all essence, this seems like something that is going to happen. What does that mean for us? What do you see as the implication, especially based on how much you seem to think that it's a mistake?
Over the years, I have known that just thumping is not presidential. You know, that the president says it's about me, it's about me. First of all, that's not presidential. I left those people in Bunono drinking. So that will not stop us from engaging the way we are doing and even beyond this. Two, that does not necessarily make him right. Had it been a Ben Mwine, I would have said he's speaking out of ignorance.
Right.
But being the president, I think I will say he's innocent of the law. And he needs time with the people who know the law, sit around with him, counsel him and tell him, Mr. President, you are wrong. Unfortunately, there are not so many that are able to tell him the same way. I speak about the president respectfully, but firmly, that he's wrong in this. Notwithstanding the numerical strength that he enjoys and sometimes abuses.
Which he does enjoy.
And abuses. And those are my words. You can quote me anyway. To the honorable colleagues in Parliament, yes, the majority of whom are NRM, you see, defying the president is not criminal. Defying the Constitution is criminal. Defying logic is immoral. And the price for defying logic is astronomical. The burden on us is humongous. And we've got to execute our mandate, one with caution and consciousness. Let us accept to, including annoy, or even disappoint the president. But let us not disappoint the spirit of the Constitution under which we took our oath. Number two, let us not disappoint and betray the country. The people asked us to represent them and to do good. Today you may think that the president is targeting the opposition. We are not targeted. Let me tell you, he's targeting the country because he wants to hold the entire country hostage. He's using laws, and this is maybe it could be the difference that if Idi Amin was not using the law, this one forces his way through the law. And it is law, even when it is bad and wrong. I have told you, I have a friend of mine, the Right Honorable Amama Mbabazi. As you see him, he was called Mr. Clean, Mr. Smart, Mr. Everything. We sat in a meeting and he said he was going to Mbale. And a number of us told him, you are not going to Mbale. You will not go. He said, I'll go. Have I, contravened any piece of legislation in this country by going to Mbale? I said, man, you thought we were criminals, that's why we were being brutalized. Did he get to Mbale? Kawe stopped him at Chira, at Njiru. And when I visited him at Chira Road, we started talking about it. He said, hello, do you know these chaps could not let me proceed? Let me tell you. This man started with various articles in the Constitution. I know of a man who went for the burial of another, and they invited him to give a speech as the old man in the village, and he said, look, this leopard which killed this guy started with somebody's goat down there. It ate somebody's sheep up there. It has killed a Mchiga. The next time it comes, it's going to kill somebody. It's going to kill a human being. Okay? People laughed at this man, saw him as an ignorant, innocent man, I mean, whose life is talking like that. I am telling you, this leopard came for term limits, came for age limits. The leopard is coming for bail. Leopard is coming for land amendment. This leopard is coming for you. Let me call upon Ugandans, including President Museveni, because I'm also told he's Ugandan. Don't kill this country. Even when you are away, your children will need this country. Your grandchildren will need this country. We all need this country. I think the president needs to, I was going to say sober up, but the president needs to reconsider his stand. This country belongs to us all. Let's just improve the systems. It is very possible to conclude investigations in a month or two. You can even forget about these complicated cases. There are people who are charged with theft and are in prison for a year, 2 years before being convicted. What does it take to improve the system? Just allocate money to the judiciary, allocate money to the police, train the police, train the judiciary to do good, and you will have a smooth criminal justice system. Let the judges do their work. Some of our judges have disappointed me in the past. I have lost cases that I thought I would not lose. I grieve. I don't shout at them. I do not bark at them. Because a judge who gave you a wrong or what you consider wrong judgment yesterday gives you a right judgment the following day. He could have made an error of judgment yesterday. But do not accost him the same way President Museveni has done it in the past, including telling judges that they are legally bankrupt. It is wrong. Do not attack these institutions. Do not attack this constitution. Let me tell you, Ugandans, and you, Ben, in particular now, representing all the others who are not here looking at me. Oh, they are seeing me, I'm not seeing them. That constitution is a very small book, yet very important. With all the problems we have in our governance system, that constitution has held this country together. You know, restraining, including those who do not know it exists, those who do not know its clauses. Let us not abuse it. Let us not mutilate it. President Museveni has chosen to behave bigger than that constitution. Indeed, in terms of fatness and size, yes, he is. He's the one who signed it. Let him be bound by it.
He has made it very clear, and we've seen this in particular instances where the people have the right to be able to change certain things in this constitution depending on the circumstance.
Yes.
Right.
In good faith.
Right.
They must do so in good faith. He's doing it in bad faith.
According to you.
He's an enemy of that constitution.
According to you.
I mean, did I say I'm speaking for you? You called me and told me I'm going to share my views with you and the viewers.
Right.
And just in case I am wrong, let me be crucified. The point I am making is that it is after he has been challenged politically that is bringing this in abuse of the numerical strength he enjoys. I have faith and confidence. Again, I may be disappointed tomorrow, I don't mind. It's life. In my colleagues at Parliament, they have seen what they have gone through. Quite a number of them have gone through hell. They have had cases concocted against them by their political opponents. But, I mean, it is up to them And I leave it to them. I mean, my duty is to share my thoughts based on what I know.
Right.
I have practiced law since 2003. So I have been around. The last 18 years I have been at this. I have legislated for the last 10 years. I am interested in this thing called rule of law and constitutionalism. I've therefore taken time and allocated resources to read widely about it. Do not quote bad cases and tell us we should be bound by them. It may be painful, but you must live with this constitution.
Based on what we have seen, do you envisage any scenario where this doesn't happen? Because again, as pointed out, this is something that the president has been passionate about for the better part of a decade now. He's been going on about this for quite a while. He seems to be in combat mode now. And one of the things actually he wanted to add, and he was complaining about, is the issue of the death penalty. He said it's the freedom fighters' way, an eye for an eye, and things along those lines. But again, Honorable Sogana, we know that usually when he's hell-bent on getting something done, we tend to see it happen. Do you envisage a scenario where this does not come to pass based on?
Yes, it's a continuous effort restraining the bad people. The president is a bad person. It is our duty to restrain him using the Constitution, using the laws, and the positions that were given unto us by the people of Uganda. The people of Uganda, assuming by some microscopic accident or event, voted for him. They knew that it's not enough to have a president. It is important to have parliament. And the role of parliament is to rein in on the executive when it's making errors. This is one of the occasions when the president is making a grave error that might descend this country into chaos, that might lead to abuse, that is clearing way for extortion. Because just trust me, one, citizens will be extorting money from others, saying, I am going to allege you defiled my daughter. I am going to claim you killed so and so who died in this village. I am going to claim you committed treason. And you know, it's just enough to allege. Just enough to allege, whether you did it or not. Okay? Someone saw me in Kagadi recruiting rebels on my wedding day. You know, I did not recruit those that attended my wedding in Namirembe. But as I was wedding, some other person saw me in Kagadi recruiting rebels in the territory where I did not know anyone, where I had not gone anywhere. I had never been. In fact, I have been there once, only when I was incarcerated. Why? It is just an allegation. We have an imperfect system which we need to keep improving. At some point, I was arraigned in court in 2009 and charged with sedition after the Constitutional Court had declared it unconstitutional. You know, a charge sheet was saying I committed sedition at a time when the Constitutional Court had annulled it, and there was no appeal to reverse it. It's such an imperfect system. So let's keep this constitution. Allow it time to be tested. There is no crisis. We should not even cause a crisis. We should not be stampeded. If we have issues with the judiciary, let's resolve them. Because it is an institution we have. And we're not going to abolish it. If the president wants to be a judge, he can go back to Makerere or IU, UCU, or KIU, learn law for 4 years, do 1 year at LDC, practice law. I can employ him. for 10 years and become a judge?
I'm not sure you can afford him.
The president?
Yeah.
You will. First of all, he will come as an intern. He will not be entitled to salary. 2, when he finishes internship and is enrolled as an advocate, he chooses where to supply his labor. If I can't afford him, he establishes his law firm. But the point I'm making, for him to qualify to be a judge, to collect the kind of knowledge I have in law, at that time we will be able to speak at the same page.
Don't you think there are enough people around the president who know the law as much as you do, who should be advising him on what you think?
Do you
is
remember all
a mistake
his names? Tibu Haburua. He cannot be corrected. That's number 1. Number 2, and that is for the good, honest gentlemen and ladies that genuinely advise the president. But there's also this category of vampires that walk around the president simply to steal his money, to clap hands because they know what the chief wants. They are there. They're not telling him the truth. I am telling him the truth boldly, in the hope that I'll be able to get home, in the hope that I'm securing a future for generations behind me. And I'm saying all this in good faith with immense respect to the old man. It is wrong to tamper with the Constitution for political expedience. I have told you, unless he's going to change the presumption of innocence and remove it from the Constitution, which I also know he's capable of doing.
If it works for the Francophone system, surely there must be a reason why it's working for them.
Are you very happy with what is happening there? Are those the best cases, the best case scenarios you want to quote? No. I told you, when you compare yourself with the bad, you're bad. I mean, they've been telling us, oh, that place is hell. If it is hell, are you taking us to hell? You know, I'm even surprised. At a time when other people are going up to the moon, they are making all manner of aircrafts, the economies are booming even in COVID, where people are manufacturing in the face of COVID to reorganize their economies. We are grappling with such a simple basic things. It's elementary. This concept we are talking about is elementary. So we are pleading, and this time let me plead with the president. General Yoweri, at least this time round, make a concession. It is wisdom. Conceding is wisdom. We are not forcing you to say you would have lost, you would have defeated. No, concede. We shall celebrate with you. Look at the congestion in prisons. We are complaining about underdevelopment. Look at how many young men are in prison. Why? Because some cases have been concocted against them. Those that have been convicted, it's okay. Let them serve their sentence. I am pleading. I've been shadow minister for justice for 10 years. I've therefore had an insight into the operations of the judiciary and how they are crippled. Crippled because they are not facilitated properly. They are not well paid. I mean, until recently we made an attempt. They are not given money to do ABCD. Land wrangles spill into criminal, sometimes concocted. You said, for example, if it's a land matter for court to decide it, visit locus. No single coin has ever been allocated for visiting locus, except for judges that have vehicles which are fueled. But go to the lower bench, the magistrates who handle 90% of the land cases, not even a coin for fuel. Some of the magistrates do not even have cars. But you must have security for them at the locus. Do not quote for me these cases of, you said mob justice is on the increase. Mob justice itself is criminal. Do you want to amend the Constitution because some people are ill-mannered committing cases of mob justice? If mob justice was not criminal and was not evil, I would have killed so many people. But I do not do it because I know it's illegal. 2, it's immoral. You don't do it. Sensitize those young men that are committing acts of mob justice. and tell them, no, wait. Develop the confidence in our judiciary. And we're the ones that are eroding. First, the judicial officers themselves are contributing to this. And I'm saying some of them. When they do things that are uncharitable and unpalatable, they cause the confidence to erode. We, the citizens, are contributing to that. If we are saying some judicial officers are corrupt, who gives them money? Who entices them? If we are the parties to a case and we both said we will not give money, what happens? The judge will decide the case anyway. So the judge will be left with one option, to decide the case on merits and law. At some point, I got a client who gave me instructions. I was executing instructions and said, why don't we go and give money to the judge? I said, I'm not a quack. I don't do that. And I said, it starts with me and you. I said, for example, supposing this judge arrests me, I lose my career ahead. The name goes. The fame goes. The freedom goes. The respect disappears. Because I was bribing a judge, I said I will not do it. I'm only trained to argue the law. I will not do the case that way. I refused. And we won the case. The point I am making, President Museveni, Medad Lubega, who is an MP, Yakobo Lanya, who is the Speaker, the citizen who is not an MP, let's just do one thing, sing one song for the good of this country. Let's improve our institutions. Right. Let's rebuild and reconstruct the confidence. I mean, tell me if you are the fountain of honor and you are telling the citizens that the judiciary you gave them is not functional. What do you expect? Actually, you are responsible for the mob justice we are seeing. I've told you I've lost cases, including those I believe I should have won. I have never gone out to tell anybody that the judiciary is corrupt. Because the moment you do it, the next day I win my case on merit, they will say, yeah, because the judiciary is corrupt, he gave them money. He bought justice. If you are the president, you even owe us a higher duty. Right. And the higher duty is live, act, behave, speak presidential.
Speaking of speaking presidential, as we wrap up, need to bring up the issue of your desire to live, breathe, act presidential, not at national level, but in the capacity of SC Villa president. What's happening with that?
Oh, of course that's at a national level, because Sports Club Villa is a national club.
That's going through some very difficult times right now.
Yes, but it remains national.
Right.
And it's my plan, my intention, my desire, and my will to reclaim that glory and to bring every other club to the knees. A lot has been going on. I think some people think or want to take this club to the ruins. We are doing all within our means. If you're aware that Congress is sitting this weekend to deliberate on the issues, the governance crisis or issues that have dogged our club. To the members out there, I am still available. I was duly nominated. I participated in this election. It was abruptly and mischievously stopped. I believe for the votes that had been cast, I must have had not less than 90% of the votes. I think Congress will task the trustees to explain the circumstances under which the election was stopped, who stopped it, The mind and will of such person will have to be explained. The way forward will have to be discussed. I have never pulled out of this race. I am still interested in this pursuit because I want a better club. I have both the will and ability to make it a better club. I have not been consulted at any one point in this. I have not been told that my nomination and candidature was cancelled. So we are waiting. And because some of us are disciplined, we avoid going around making noise or doing things that would prejudice the success of football in this country. I have all the grounds to go to court. I have held on to that and watching the space. Mm. So you asked me what is going on. That's what's going on. But in the meantime, the club is there. It is afloat. It is being managed by an interim arrangement. It is my hope, prayer, and desire that this club is reinstated to its former position. And this is the future of football. Villa, well managed, is the future of football in Uganda. Right. And is the reflection of football in Africa. Well, we have the capacity to do that.
There's quite a bit of catching up to do because many of the clubs have obviously gone so far ahead of you. I should point out to you that I grew up as an SC Villa fan from the days of Adam Semugabi back in the very early 90s, and it's been rather disappointing to see what the club has turned into. And
I'm sure you should be the witness when we were at Caltech with that's the club we were discussing.
Absolutely.
Yes. Others have moved on. True, and it's a management issue. As soon as my administration gets into office, we'll catch up with them. Of course, if you reorganize the administration of Sports Club Villa, it's never late for us. Yes, we have lost a lot, but we are not going to continue lamenting forever. I know that there's a book of lamentation on the Bible. I read it, but I do not want to be bogged down by lamentation. I want to concentrate on revelation. So when we get there, yes, I can tell you, with everybody working together with the other, we will make Villa great again. Yeah. And I want to invite you back to your club. I know the reasons that kept you away. But we are resolving them. We shall resolve them.
Well, I hope you can very soon. Plus, of course, there's a whole new segment of the population that doesn't know the Villa that you and I know, and so hopefully that's something that...
But didn't you see the response when I said I'm coming to stand up for Villa? You can see that the game changed within 3 days, the moment I announced. Why? Because people know that I can bring this club afloat again, and with them and with their support. Well, and I'm relying on their support, the fans out there, those that are already card holders and those that intend to join us. Just pray for us and give us your views. Express yourselves. This is your club. Yeah. Express yourselves. I'm sure the trustees and the congressmen and women will be able to listen to you. If we want Villa back, we must respond to the voices of its owners, and that's the people. The club doesn't belong to us in Congress, doesn't belong to the trustees. The trustees are our trustees. We want to trust them that they will do a good job in steering us through this crisis, which is man-made, by the way. We would not be talking about what we're talking had there not been some malicious people that are motivated by, I don't want to speak against them, maybe ill will and so many other vices you would think of. But as a leader, incoming, I do not want to get into that. Right. Because those are people I want to lead, so I want to retain some space for them.
Well, let's hope that gets resolved and that we're able to go in the right direction. Honorable Mayor,
in the name of Jesus.
Amen. Thank you so much for allowing us to put you on the spot tonight.
It's my pleasure. It's been my pleasure being part of the show tonight. And keep praying, keep working. Pray and fast for this country. To my brothers, Sejirinya, Sewanyana, our prayers and hearts go out to them. They are going through a difficult time. We do not believe in their guilt. We believe they are innocent. We believe these are concoctions. But yes, the law allows concoctions to be investigated and tried. Let everybody be guided by the law. Let everybody be guarded as we administer the law in this country. May God bless you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Medat Segona. On behalf of the entire production crew here on The Sports, my name is Ben Mwine. Have a great night. God bless you, and God bless Uganda.